everyone, welcome back to Motion RC Live. I'm James, it's episode 14, and although I am not actually live, I just want to give you a rundown of what the show is going to be like today. We're going to have Alpha take over a little bit. He's going to come in and he's going to go over the Bison, answer more questions that you guys might have. We'll have a lot of this bird. As you know, I haven't had a chance to fly it yet, so that's going to probably be coming hopefully next week when I'm back from vacation, because as of right now, I'm probably at Disney or on my way home from Disney on my break. Then Alpha's going to bring in Todd Breda. Todd Breda has been working. He's one of the OG Motion RC employees, if you will. He's our web designer, graphic designer. He puts all the things on the website. He's also Aros on HobbySquawk. He's been there. He's the lead moderator of the HobbySquawk forums for us. He's been a big part of Motion RC since the start, and it'll be exciting to get him on. You'll get him by voice only, but Alpha's going to talk to him a little bit. Then we'll run through some community stuff. Alpha and Todd will take you through some of the best stuff that happened during the week that I'm going to miss. I didn't see it, obviously, because I'm not really here, but we'll run through the community. Then we're going to be joined by another guest, Diego, 13-year-old aviation enthusiast who's both hoping to one day both do graphics and engineering, as far as maybe possibly designing RC planes. He had spoken with Alpha, and Alpha was really excited to speak to him, so we're going to bring him on the show and have a chit-chat with Diego, so we're excited for that. So that'll do it for me, guys. I will join you all next week on episode 15 of Motion RC Live. I'll be back, and we'll be ready for a regular show, but I'm going to pass it off to Alpha, our product manager, and he'll take it from here. Bye, guys.
Welcome, RC pilots, drivers, and captains. We're excited for all of you to be joining us today, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to James, wherever you are watching this, from a line in Disneyland, probably eating a churro of some sort. We miss you, buddy. And again, to our audience, thanks for joining us, guys. We're going to be jumping directly into a great show, I think, today. As James previewed for you, we'll be looking at the all-new Skynetic Bison, talking with our good friend Aros, looking at the customer community and all that you've shown to us in our various social media platforms throughout the week, and diving into our special guest. Really excited to introduce you to Diego, so you want to stick around and listen to what this young man has to say. Very inspiring stuff, and we're excited that everyone is here. So let's dive right in. I'm going to be talking for this first segment about the all-new Skynetic Bison XT STOL. So this is an aircraft that has been developed over the past 3 years. There are other aircraft like this, obviously, in the RC world. This is really the type of STOL that we would fly. So we took a lot of time developing the aircraft and fine-tuning different features about it to make it something that was really a STOL for scalers. So we're going to be putting the links in the description below for those of you who are not already familiar with it. More information there, as well as on HobbySquawk. And you're going to want to dive in there and see that additional information. The aircraft has a variety of features that I'm going to be looking and I'm going to be showing to each of you one by one. So encourage everyone to look to your screens. If you have any questions about some of the things we're going to be showing you today, please feel free to write those comments in as much time as we have. We're going to cover them. And finally, again, anything that we miss, jump over into hobbysquawk.com and follow up the conversation there. So let's, Alex, cue me into our CAD screen here. I'm going to show the internals of the Bison. Now, for those of you not familiar, we from time to time do like to show a bit more what's going on behind the scenes. We encourage you to check out our Freewing What's in the Box, sort of how is it made videos that we've made in the past and other conversations we've had there. So this is really more of a continuation of that effort, everyone, to show you how these aircraft are made, how tanks are put together, how our Bancroft warships are assembled and fabricated. And we've had a lot of comments in previous shows wanting to see the inside of some of our balsa factory partners. So stay tuned for that in subsequent shows. We're trying to show more and more of what goes into bring that model from its inception all the way down to your hangar or your port, whatever it may be. So I want to focus on a few things in the short time we have in this segment about parts of this Bison STOL aircraft that we're really proud about. And we're going to start first with the side of the aircraft. We want to show the overall layout. As we can see here, everyone should be able to see my screen. And in no particular order, I'm going to go through just from the right side of the aircraft working inwards. So the first thing is we've got these really neat lights. These are strobe lights and wingtip lights. And as James will show you in subsequent videos and in our typical close-in types of videos, these are strobes. So they're not just wingtip indicators, but there's built-in strobes. We see here that there's 3 LEDs. And a neat feature about these is these actually plug out in situ. So the wire terminates right about here, and there's a little plug that's literally mounted on the wingtip edge. So if you want to swap that out, change colors, replace it, what have you, you can do so. Probably the most recognizable feature of the Bison STOL that differentiates it from other aircraft in the market currently is that it does have fully functioning slats. This yellow piece we see here is a leading edge slat. But as I rotate this way and show you the inside of the wing, we can see that there are turnbuckles and little parts inside here and here that allow that slat to be connected via a servo that's mounted here. And that synchronizes the movement of both the leading edge slat with our flap here in the back. So we do have some B-roll as well that we can show you guys and show what that looks like in the final model. Plastic molded hinges as well. They're a bit different from other styles that we've used in other aircraft, but commonly seen on this type of high lift wing. Carrying over from other Skynetic aircraft, other Freewing and Flightline aircraft that we've helped develop over the years, carried a lot of that feedback into the design of this airplane. So another good example, as you saw briefly, is the servos are individually addressable. You can get into them with 2 quick screws and remove and service those screws. And that takes us next into the wing connector. Wing connector in this little diagram may be difficult to see, but this is the same connector layout that we did for our Skynetic Shrike, which allows very quick and easy removal of the wings without needing to connect any wires. The wire bundle is housed and sort of concealed inside the main cockpit area, and removing the wing is as simple as unclipping a C-clip down here on the bottom, unscrewing 2 screws here at the top of the wing, and popping the wing out. And it's important to us when transporting a large aircraft like this that obviously, like most of our other large airplanes, we want to be able to get the wings off to repair them, look at them, transport them, etc., without putting too much damage on the fuselage itself. Now we get into another fun part of the aircraft that makes it, I think, a bit distinct, or at least shows some evolution of what we do and the feedback that our customers have obviously given to us, which is the undercarriage. So the undercarriage on the Bison STOL is what I'm going to call cushy. You'll see in the show we did last week where James had the Bison in studio, and again in future videos as we do our deeper dives into the airplane, you'll notice that we went with what some have called out as sort of RC car type suspension, which is absolutely true. We went with these larger metal clevises and a very, very long stroke suspension arm here. That's fully adjustable. We can adjust that for tension. So if you're on, say, rockier terrain, sometimes at the factory we've been flying over unprepared sort of rocks and gravel and riverbank type area, washout type area, you're going to want to increase the travel of that suspension. And in the case of the inflatable tires, you may want to remove some of that air pressure. Conversely, if you're on pavement, you may want to stiffen up your suspension. So we thought it adds another element into the aircraft, at least in a portfolio that we've designed thus far, for us and all of you to go in and play with. So tinker, there's not going to be any right or wrong answer, but there are going to be preferences that each of us hopefully will find based on the surfaces off of which we're flying that really help us sort of customize how the aircraft performs. But all of that undercarriage is, of course, based on where it connects into the aircraft. And this is where we spent a lot of time. We wanted it to look scale-ish and reference a lot of real-life aircraft. Fun fact for those not aware, I was born in Alaska, and so a lot of the Valdez type competitions and bush planes and that culture sort of in my blood. And so we wanted to reference a lot of those design elements, but still obviously be practical. So you'll notice for the Bison, there's a lot of metal in here, a lot of metal parts, a lot of sort of adjustable car suspension parts carrying over from that category. And probably most importantly, other than you can see just how deeply these mounting points go into the foam, even more importantly, a lot of the breakpoints are outside of the fuselage. So critically, guys, if you do come down hard or come down wrong and break something, the intent is that you be able to service the aircraft from the outside without needing to cut foam and move into the fuselage. That's a bit of feedback we've had from older aircraft we've developed, and so we've tried to make the aircraft to the point where it can be taken care of from the outside. Moving along, there are more lights. Again, it's trying to make this a STOL, but really more of a scale STOL. We've put lights all over the airplane, light on the belly, light out on the wingtips, and there's this is a neat cover that you'll see that conceals very bright LEDs that face forward and slightly outwards. So when you're coming in on short final, it really illuminates not just the aircraft, but they're angled such that it illuminates a bit of the cowling as well. So practical use there. Moving into the fuselage now, you'll see it's very spacious. I can stick almost my entire form up to my elbow into the battery bay and sort of just the larger cavity. And as you'll see in the description of the website, we do talk a bit more in detail about sort of what we hope people can use this STOL for, not just to have a very super scale STOL that has sort of Motion RC's take on things, but also there are a few upgrade paths. So you'll notice that the plywood plate that's up here is both a false floor for the cosmetic seats, and it's also positioned in a way that we'll be offering in future a pan and tilt mount for our line of FPV equipment that allows you to mount the camera in a preset way where we know that you're going to have an adequate field of view to fly the aircraft FPV. Now, James will cover in future videos, there are two types of plastic between the main windscreen, which is more clear and intended for you to be flying out of. The side windows are a structural plastics, or a bit more hazy. You could polish those out if you wanted to fly them, or because they're structural plastic and literally bear the load, as we see, there's no really is no other structure from the rear here all the way forward. You could cut those windows out. So a few options again for pilots to configure different things. Something we're kind of proud of is that we didn't want to have a STOL that just used decals for windows, and so we went with not just really big windows on the front and side, but also the top. So a lot of the STOL type aircraft I'm familiar with have this greenhouse type window above. So we wanted to replicate that and be true to that aesthetic. So your wire bundle will be down up in here, and that's a very, very spacious bay. Now, you'll notice as well, we went with two different types of props, 4 and 6 blade, a 4S suitable prop and a 6S suitable prop, and both of those are included in the box. The aircraft will fly with either. It'll just depend on what you end up finding is best for your given situation, but we wanted to give you those options out of the box. One little thing that I'm kind of proud of is we went with the chrome spinner. Small detail, but you know, it's got to be chrome. So we went with that nice chrome spinner just to give a bit of pop when you're out on the road or the water. Zooming out, I want to show you the other optional upgrade that we're going to be selling, which is a float set. This is not a cosmetic set. It's a fully functional set with integrated rudders, servo-driven rudders. We did not want to use wires, or control wires. So these, as we see here, I zoom in this way, you'll see there's an integrated servo, direct drive to rudder, gives you good steering authority when you're on ponds and whatnot, being able to navigate. So that, peeking over here to our comments, let's go to a couple of quick questions before we move on to the next segment. Do these flaps extend away from the wing? Yes, they do, MT. So that's a good question, and maybe Alex can play back that part as well to show you again. But yes, these flaps do. They are not plain flaps. There's a technical term for them, where the hinge is actually the leading edge hinge of the flap is physically connected to the entire trailing edge of the wing. You'll see here that they do pull away completely. And you'll want to refer to the manual, obviously, for CG and a few other things that some of our stateside testers were able to identify. The aircraft can be flown with or without the flaps. You can make them fixed if you want to. We thought we'd throw it in there because it is something that, again, a STOL that the nuts here at Motion RC would love to fly. So, in a large nutshell, yes, John, you're correct. In a large nutshell, guys, that is your sneak peek preview into, literally, the inside of the upcoming Skynetic XT Bison. And we encourage you to like, share, and subscribe, and stay tuned for future content on the video. We've been flying it here in the States, and we'll be producing more content for it as we near its arrival, which, as on the website says, is going to be this summer. For those of you always asking about propeller airplanes, this is one of them. Others on the way, and of course, we've got the jets and the boats and the and a great tank update for the tankers out there coming up here shortly. Now, let's shift gears. And speaking of media, we all know Alex, we know James, and the great work that they do here to bring the community together. Aros is one of those great figures, I think, in the hobby. Not just at Motion RC, but the hobby at large. He's been a fixture for years now on forums of various types, promoting what he loves. He's a good friend of mine, and I've been working with him for a number of years now. You've seen him in the HobbySquawk forums as our chief moderator there, and we're going to bring him on now, coming all the way from Washington State. So let's get Todd in here. Todd, are you there?
I'm here. Hey, everybody.
Todd.
How's it going?
So the Aros, everyone, is Todd Breda. He's our web manager, graphic designer, and our certified plane crasher. I'm very jealous of him.
Expert level.
He is the expert level. So, Todd, a lot of the audience will have already interfaced with you or interacted with you at different times. But for those who are not familiar, tell us a bit more about you.
Yeah. Okay. Well, as Alpha said, I've been the Motion RC website administrator / graphic designer and expert level EDF jet crasher now for almost 8 years actually. And yeah, so as far as Motion RC goes, my primary duties are like publishing and editing all of content, within both US and Europe websites. Also primary graphic designer for, most website imagery, product photo editing, HobbySquawk banner ads, things of that nature. I've also done some logos like for Admiral and such, print label design, things of that nature, and some livery designs too, which is a lot of fun for Bison, Havoc, and I think the Shrike. So
exactly, you're sort of the Todd for everyone out there. Todd is the creative eye. If you've seen something that has caught your eye in media, print media, or online, it's probably made by Todd. So he has the eye that I wish that I had. And for those of you just joining us, we're again talking to Todd Breda, who's our chief. I'm going to call you the eyeball here at Motion RC. This is our attempt, guys, to step by step sort of introduce you to other parts of the team, people that we've all gotten used to seeing every day on forums, or maybe you've called in and spoke with people like Martin or Derek or Andrew, as we had in a previous show. But we want to show a bit more of the team that really enjoys serving you and enjoys being nuts about RC. So Todd, how did you get into RC? Tell us a bit about that all began.
Yeah. Well, basically, it's. I mean, I've always had a lifelong passion for aviation. It just as far as back as I can remember. And but as far as getting into the RC aspect, that actually evolved from my neighbor buddy. He had his father bought him um, one of those gas planes that you just fly around in circles, and um, just fell in
Control
love
line?
with. Yeah, the control line, exactly. Just fell in love with that. um, and then from there on, I just, for whatever reason, I got really obsessed with gliders. Like, I just remember, years and years ago, I would just stare at gliders, photos of gliders, and my father would take me to hobby shops, and I'd see these massive wings just, hanging up, and I'm just, I gotta have one, I gotta have one. So, unfortunately, I never got one as a child, but by the time I was an adult, that was one of the first things I just had to buy a glider. So yeah, so I just basically started out with high starts, and you know just flying motorless gliders, and that was basically. But I'll tell you what, using high starts, that was back in my skinny days, so it wasn't that big of a deal to chase
Back in
parachutes.
the hairband days?
Yeah, little past that, but yeah. So yeah, that got old really quick. Chasing after those high start parachutes. After like a 60-second flight or whatever. Oh God,
Yeah.
There we go.
There it is. I mean,
Yes,
for those
yes.
of us,
Here,
I'll
yes.
tell you,
This,
I'm
this,
pretty jealous.
these photos, by the way, these are main root causes for my children to be in therapy. So.
I
It was
love it.
it was yeah. In fact, a company I used to work for before Motion RC had a wall of shame where people could put their funny pictures of when they were little kids up. Well, they had a Todd wall of shame off to the side. So just of my
You had your
just
own
of my
quadrant
I had
there.
my yeah, I literally had my own section of wall of shame. As you could see, I provided ample material. So
I love it. I love it.
yeah, I always
Yeah,
say
G
that, yeah, I've kind of lived two lives. I had the rocker Todd, 80s Todd, and then I have the RC Todd life. So
You're right, John Killen. When I think of Todd, I only think of hair. It's only hair.
which is
Now
ironic because I
it's
have
on the
none
chin.
anymore.
Well, it's
Yeah.
migrated to the chin, so
Yes, yes, exactly.
it's still hair.
Yeah.
You're right, GB. So Todd, when are you gonna get out to fly with John and GB? They're asking.
Oh, I would love to. Absolutely. That would be fantastic. In fact, I fly so much alone all the time, varying reasons, things like that. But I'm always jonesing to just go fly with fellow members, community, family, RC pilots, you name it. And just would love to.
Yeah, it's one of those things where you may feel the same wherever we can fly, even before the era of COVID. I mean, wherever we could fly, whenever I could find a track that would fit my truck, whenever I could find sort of a play of rocks to bring a crawler out, it always helped if there are other people there. As much as it was fun to sort of fly or RC alone, um, getting more people together seems to be the best part of this all.
Absolutely.
Now, where are you flying in this footage? Tell us a bit more about where you RC.
Yes. Okay. So what you're looking at is actually one of the primary reasons that I crash a lot. um, um, we do have some AMA fields that are within 10 20 miles of where I live. However, I've just, for the convenience, this school is very close, and I've just flown there for years with some other RC buddies. um, and I definitely am not in the habit of flying when there's people around, schools and sessions, things of that nature. um, but the main reason I wasn't flying at AMA fields was because the runways aren't long enough for jets. So I just found that the parking lot at the school was long enough, or the track, as you could see in some of the footage, is actually perfect for flying these 90 millimeter EDF
I
jets.
mean, there's a high level of difficulty, brother. I don't think I could put it down as often as you do. So.
Yeah, I mean, they say. I don't know if it makes you a better pilot to fly around tons of obstacles. I think it makes you kind of more stupid pilot, but but it's yes, there's been plenty of crashing, and actually last year was just miserable. It was, as many of you know, I was just crashing seemingly like every week, and I was just in a bad groove, and I don't know if it was the COVID mojo or what, but yeah, just a lot of I guess they come in bunches, because I could go literally months, if not even years sometimes, without any major crashing, and then it just seems to come in waves.
Yeah.
It's like, ugh,
Well, the guys
miserable.
in the chat are asking for a Gripen, so, or sorry, they're asking for a Eurofighter. So I think that may help you with high, steep, short approaches. So we'll
Whee!
get
There we
there.
go. Yeah, yeah.
Guys,
Yes.
as you've heard, Todd is sort of one of those key members of the team, and we want to spend this time to introduce you to him. So please jump into HobbySquawk and engage him there. If you're interested in hearing from more of the team that we've got here at Motion RC around the world, let us know. Post here. You may want to comment or call out people you want to hear from. If you have favorites, as we know some of you do within the team here at Motion RC, like, share, subscribe, comment. Let us know who you want to hear from next, and we'll bring them on to the show. Todd, next time you've got that next fancy, shiny Typhoon, that 120 millimeter Typhoon, bring it down in your confined spaces,
There you
we'll bring
go.
you back on.
There you
All
go.
right.
Thanks, Alpha. Thanks, everybody.
So let's keep on going, guys. We're going to jump into the customer community section as Todd was talking about being able to fly with other people and RC with other people. It's what got him started. So the community is really the theme here. It will always be. So we want to take a spotlight at some neat photos that we've culled from around the community this week. We've got Jason Rigney's Spitfire in RFD. Nice scheme. I love the sensible detailing that he did. Weathering here, not too overdone, not underdone. Great shading. This, I believe, is the big old 1.6 meter. So we love seeing that aircraft out in the world. Great photos from Jason. So Jason, if you're watching, thank you for sending those over to us. We've got, of course, Jeremy Solt moving on to his custom AL37. I believe this is the 4th or the 5th or the 6th one. I don't know, Jeremy. Comment. I know you're in here, friend. Comment how many AL37s you've been through. But I think this is the 3rd or the 4th one. So we're looking at that's a P8 Poseidon. And of course, his KC-135-ish conversion. I mean, really, really impressive stuff. 35 or 4.6. So for those of you doing customs, we've got something else coming that we're cooking through for the summer. So for those of you making customs, you're going to want to finish those and get in-flight photos. There's a tip for you. Moving on, we've got Jonas. We've got Jonas, however I pronounce your last name. We've got Jonas. I don't want to butcher it, my friend, so I'm just going to say Jonas. But he posted photos of his Gripen. Kudos to your shop, by the way. Nice clean floor. He added these landing lights to make it more scale. So this is exactly the type of stuff we love seeing, everyone. We love seeing people taking their boats, and we've seen some movable turrets. We've seen lights on airplanes. We've obviously seen a lot of repaints on some of the tanks and different type of surface products. So getting things, customizing them, even if they're small things like lights, he did it really well, and sharp photos as well to share that with us. So thank you, Jonas. Michael, it's got another MiG-29. I believe this is I want to say this is his first, maybe his second, but he shared these photos with us for his MiG-29 Fulcrum. This one is another. I'm a big fan of this, not just what he did to the aircraft itself, but we need to all get better at setting those photos, everyone, making it look super realistic. He's got that bokeh effect going, and great job on a full repaint of his MiG-29. If memory serves, I believe that's a Slovak scheme. Oh no, based on the tail, that's not Slovak. Looks Polish. Moving along, we have Paul sent a photo to us of his F-14 Tomcat, the Freewing twin 80 millimeter. Love the Tomcat. This is one of our aircraft that it seems every year people love more and more. Stock configuration on the ordnance and the lights, but lit up like the proverbial Christmas tree. Not recommended to fly that way, but I do remember a fun story maybe I'll jump into later of Brent Hecht. I'm going to call you out, Brent. Brent Hecht flying my F-14 years ago when we first released it. He flew it as the sun had set, and it was getting darker and darker and darker. He continued to fly it, and as always, continually impressed with how that man can fly an airplane. Moving along, we've got Ward Johnson. Ward, this is he's a few submissions in as well, but we want to show you Ward's airplane. This is points for originality. It makes me think of G.I. Joe, the 80s. They had a they had an A-10-ish type airplane. So, Ward, more power to you. As much as you want to do to make that aircraft amazing, please send it to me when you're done. And then, of course, our good friend Just Wing at RC. Let's dive into Chris Wolf's F-14 and Brent's MiG-29. Speaking of Brent, him and Chris are sort of two peas in a pod, and they've worked with us in the past, so shout out to them. What these guys do to take our aircraft to the next level is really impressive. I will say it every single time. So go to justwingit.rc/Chris Wolf. You're going to see some of the content that they're putting out. And Chris Wolf, for those of you not familiar, that is the RC Geek. Great guy out of Southern California. If you haven't seen his content, please subscribe to him as well. Great reviews, great engineer, great father, great guy. Air Guardian, you're in here. You're going to make the show, friend. We've got your Gripen, and this is a great, what's this, a modification? What do we even call this? It's more than a repaint. It's more than a kit bash. You've really done a lot of impressive things. He's got the afterburners on it, really wild scheme, and a few extra things. So, Air Guardian, if you're in here, I'm not sure if you've yet posted to HobbySquawk what you did to the Gripen, but if not, for all of you watching, this is the type of stuff that our Air Guardian does. I'm not surprised anymore. I'm impressed always, but I'm not surprised at what you can do to these airplanes. So you've got this smoke set out on the wingtips of your Freewing 80 millimeter Gripen. Again, I'll send you my address. Send me one or two. Let's work it out. And you're right, Air Guardian. The smoke rings my bell as well. Very cool stuff. And finally, we've got Essential RC with the Spitfire, another type of flying. Speaking of that Bison STOL and recognizing that more and more of you are flying FPV inside your aircraft, Essential RC has now refit one of the Flightline 1.6 meter Spitfires with a full pan and tilt FPV setup. Very impressive stuff. For those of you who haven't tried it, maybe don't try it on a 1.6 meter Spitfire in your first sortie, but as we see from his footage, very impressive stuff. So again, thank you for sharing. GB, you're up for the next show, buddy. So we want to see more stuff from you so we can put you on here. Mateo, I don't think the smoke blinds you much, but you'd have to ask Air Guardian. So very cool things, everyone. As always, please continue to share your content with us, whether you're in the water, trudging through snow on a crawler, in the air on an airplane, or sort of meeting the air and the ground where the two of those meet. Please send us your photos, your videos, any of that sort of stuff. Link in the description below, and jump obviously into HobbySquawk or our social media pages like Facebook or Instagram, and add us at MotionRC. The more, the better. Now, we're going to shift gears yet again, and I'm going to bring in a new friend of mine. His name's Diego. And guys, you're going to want to sit through, you've made it this far, you're going to want to sit through the remainder of this show to listen to this young man and how impressive I think that he is. So, tell you a bit about Diego. From time to time, as one may imagine, we get solicited by engineers, designers, people who want to partner with us. It's a great part of of our jobs where we can sort of see who's out there and see who we can collaborate with. Everyone from the boozers to GB and other people, RC Geek, of course, and people that we worked with in the past, Jeremy Solt, Justin Lamb, people like that. It's always encouraging. There, as one can imagine, we also get a lot of solicitations from companies wanting to partner with us at more of a corporate level. We got an email from a gentleman named Diego asking to work with Alpha on the design of an aircraft. And long story short, we worked it out that he was actually 13 years old. I thought he was 30. Very articulate. He spoke so well, very knowledgeable, and I was just really, really impressed. So unfortunately, I'd love one day to take Diego and some of the rest of you into one of our factories. But in the meantime, we thought we'd bring Diego onto the show and speak to this young man. And I think it's important for all of us to hear what the next generation of RC pilots and drivers and captains sound like. So let's bring Diego in. Diego, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
All right. Diego, so you're joining us from sunny California, is that correct?
Yep.
Fantastic. Now tell us a bit about yourself. I know that you're not too active on the forums just yet, so people may not be as familiar with you as Aros, but tell us a bit about yourself. How old are you? Where in the world are you, and what kind of RC do you like?
I'm 13. I'm from California, and my town is Vacaville, which is right in between Sacramento and San Francisco. I fly at Lagoon Valley Electric Flyers, which is right in between our town and another town in a regional park. I love to fly airplanes. I've recently gone to EDF jets, but I mostly fly prop planes.
When and how did you discover RC?
Well, I've always loved aviation. My great grandfather he was actually a radio man on Navigator planes during the Korean War, the Vietnam War, and the first Gulf War. So I've always heard stories from him. I want to be a pilot. I want to go Navy. So when I've always known about this airfield, but I never knew like what went on there. I've always seen it. So one day I reached out to one of the club members. His name's Alan. So we met him, and then a couple of weeks later after that, I was flying buddy box with him. So that's how it started. Then soon after, I got my first plane. Yeah.
It's pretty amazing how someone like yourself can walk into an RC field, have a group of guys say, "Let's come over and buddy box an airplane." What was that like in your first flight?
It was actually pretty easy. I mean, it's not too hard once you're up there, I mean, landings were hard. I took off my first time that day, so yeah.
How were the
I mean,
nerves?
It's nice. Oh yeah, there's a couple of nerves. I was afraid I was going to crash.
Yeah, I think we can all, anyone listening who happens to be an RC pilot, can probably recall the first time you put an airplane up. And I can tell you, Diego, there was no buddy box when I started. So my first flight was really more 3 flights.
Yeah.
At least 1 takeoff and 3 landings. There are a bunch of bounces and pieces. So since then, since you got started in that first experience, what did you do next? Did you just start drinking everything RC you could find? Did you tell us about that?
So I got my first plane, like a high wing airplane. I got some batteries because I was using Allen's before that because we always buddy box. I buddy boxed on different planes. I tried a low wing warbird and some faster high wings. So I went out to the field a lot, every weekend in the mornings. I stayed there for a while. The guys out there have a lot of stories and they have so much experience. So it's really nice, having them out there and, having them willing to share. So I think that helped a lot, like their experiences. So
Now, as you're learning more and more about the hobby, what part of the hobby or what parts of the hobby do you enjoy the most? You enjoy the crashing? You enjoy the flying, the fixing, the customizing? Where are you at in your RC journey?
I really like building the planes and maintaining them, and then I like repairing them. Like I got a Fucky Wolf 190 that was a little bit broken down, so I gave it a new ESC, new servo. I painted it up, and that's always fun, to see something that you painted, you repaired in the sky.
Yeah, pretty satisfying stuff. What are you working on these days?
I just finished a little homemade Throwjet MiG-21, so I'm gonna try and download probably some plans. One of the guys at the airfield's gonna send me a website link for plans and using like cheap dollar store foam. And then I just got a lot of motors ESCs from someone who went out of the hobby, so I'm probably gonna work on one of those next.
Yeah, that sounds fun. Are you working off of plans or are you this is going to be just your own design?
For the MiG-21, it was my own design, but I think for this new one using the dollar store foam, I think I'm gonna use plans.
I love the plan route. I came up in an age of paper and sticks and dope and pins and that sort of thing. So getting back to building, it was just so refreshing to have someone like you talk about when we first began conversing in email, your aspirations to convert drawings into a real airplane. That is a journey, as we've covered in previous videos on things like our how it's made Freewing factory walkthroughs. But to have someone say, I sense that that's going to be a complex lift, but that is something that I want to get into was really refreshing. So for those of you listening, again, to recap, Diego emailed into us asking for a way to participate. He sent me plans of an Avenger that he had drawn, and interestingly, a lot of the notes in there, you need to put this here, this needs to be over here. We're going to use this specific servo in this location. A lot of that is a lot of what I began with. I think a lot of where a lot of us are as well, just conceiving and conceptualizing where things need to be, what needs to happen to result in an aircraft that looks the part, functions, is serviceable as a model, and can also fly. So tell us a bit more about your love for the Avenger.
Okay, so, well, I don't know if anyone you know this, but there's never been an RC Avenger ever. No one has ever made one.
Right.
So I know I'm a big history buff, especially World War II, Korean, Vietnam, Gulf War. So I know about the war in the Pacific, and a lot of those planes have been made, but never the Avenger. And it played a huge part. It destroyed the battleship Yamato, the Japanese biggest battleship in the world. It was the
True.
main torpedo bomber from 1943 onward. So, and a lot of guys flew in it and risked their lives in it. So, yeah.
Yeah, so I remember you saying something about your connection to the war in the Pacific. Was it your grandfather?
Yes, my
Who
great
was
grandfather. He lived in Hawaii during the whole war. He was at Pearl Harbor, during the attack. He was up in the hills hunting so that Japanese Zeros would circle over him as they made their dives towards the harbor. So, he always told me stories about that. What like rationing during the war was like. So, yeah.
Yeah, so a bit of a history buff. For those of you out there who know me, we know I'm a bit of the same. Um, so an Avenger. Guys, comment in chat, and then comment when the video is finally posted. And obviously, go into HobbySquawk. What do we feel about an Avenger? I know my vote, but that's something that I think, Diego, you and I would agree that would be a great aircraft. And you're right. I believe all 7 torpedo hits that the Yamato took were released from Avengers.
Yep.
No more than 7 were fired, but I do believe all 7 were Avengers. So interesting progression of how history can meet the hobby. So, as a young person, as someone that I wish I still was, what advice would you give to the RC community to help us attract more people like you? You're someone who has one hand on the history, then one eye toward the future. you're obviously more skilled than I was when I first started. So you have that, you're the video game generation, as one of the guys in chat said. I mean, as you're coming into the hobby, what advice would you give us? Get more like you in here.
I think let I think so. When I first started, I've flown RC before, like just around my house, like the tiny one. So I thought, oh, airplanes are like that. And then when I tell my friends, like I send them a picture of like a 4 foot warbird that goes 70 mph. It's like, what? I thought that they were like 11 inches long. So I think that really surprises them, and that's one of the things that got me interested when I was going out to that field that day. When I saw
Mhm.
those huge airplanes going super fast, I think that really helped. And I think field trip opportunities, like I've been talking with one of the a friend of mine who's a little bit younger than me, and I think he'd like to get into the hobby. I show him pictures of my planes. Show him like go. We talk about like repairs and stuff. So yeah, I think I think field trips would be cool. Like having the guy like letting the kid like look at the planes. Look inside them, look at the battery hatches, and just like explain to them how it works.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. The my old club at Apollo 11 in Sepulveda, based in there in Los Angeles, we from time to time would bring the Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts out as a bit of a field trip opportunity, like you said. And you're right, we
Yeah.
probably should do that more often, because seeing people see aircraft or cars, seeing them in use, and seeing, like you said, how you open them up and get into them, and this is how you change the wheel, and this is how you put the battery. It helps to maybe dispel the myth that it's overly technical or that it's too scary. Would you agree?
Yeah, I think looking inside the plane is one of the things that helped me design the Avenger. Like, Alex, could you put up the picture of the FW-190? That airplane, I had to go inside of it. I had to change servos, and the servos are deep inside of it. But I learned a lot about, ESC. I had to change the receiver a couple of times. So, getting inside of the plane really helped, understand it.
Hmm. Hmm. Do you find, we might, someone like me might say you're sort of the video game generation, but are you finding that you like the RC simulator route and using sort of technology route to enjoy the hobby? Or are you more just hands-on, you want to cut it apart and do it yourself type thing? Are you learning as you go, having something in your hands?
Um, the simulator does not compare to flying. Flying's, great. But I think that the simulator, I have one and it really helps me fly. Like it really helped me on jets because there's a time a couple of months ago where I took a break from flying, just because COVID was getting so bad. And then there's only one time in the morning where you can go out to the field and there's a lot of people out there. So I worked on the simulator there. Like I tried going inverted on my prop planes, and I mean now I can go inverted. So I think the simulator definitely does help. But I think there's a balance, because if you're trying to go more towards engineering and understanding what's inside of the RC airplane side, then you have to go inside the airplane. But if you're just trying to fly, like you don't care what's inside, just hook up the battery, go fly, then I think the simulator. But I like to have like, balance.
Yeah, all is very, very important. Diego, there's a bunch of comments. I'm not sure if you can hear them, but I do want to, or if you can read through them, but I do want to call out some of these guys. A lot of support, obviously, people saying hi, Diego. So you want to jump in after the show to read through these. Guys, if you have any questions for Diego or anything you'd like him to speak to, obviously a very astute mind we have here on the show today, feel free to post those comments and we'll try and get those questions in before we wrap up this segment. There's a lot of comments about the Avenger. I think there's some support for that aircraft. Tom jumped in to specify the specific model. This is, of course, the Grumman TBM 3 Avenger.
Mhm.
Are there any other aircraft or are there any other vehicles that, as you look to build out your RC career, you're looking to do or to create or to experience?
An A6M0-3. I mean, I made some rough models for it, but obviously it needs to be improved. I feel like there's been a ton of zero models. Most of them are balsa, or yeah, most of them are balsa. But I feel there's never been, like a good. I don't fly balsa, so I would like a good, foam, like a good sized zero model. So at some point, I'd like to try create one of those.
Okay, you're right up my alley, Diego. I love the Zero.
Yeah.
Discover RC and a couple of other guys are sort of dancing around. Drone Lord mentioned Civil Air Patrol. I mean, do you have any plan to move into full-size aircraft and become a pilot one day?
Yes. Navy, 100%.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. You said go Navy. You didn't just say you like the Navy. You said go Navy. I caught that. So, you're looking to become a naval aviator then?
Yeah. The Super Hornets.
And Super Hornets. Very interesting. Well, the way they're rolling out those packages, it may be still there waiting for you when you have your wings.
Yeah.
Have you looked into other, well, here's a question for you. You've got a good head on your shoulders. It's obvious you know what you like. You've got a lot of interests. You're looking at making a Zero. You're hands on, and you're that type of learner. You're already talking to your friends about joining the hobby and thinking how your club and by relation, all of our clubs can really work to attract people of your generation. What else are you looking to do with your career?
Do you mean my RC or my pilot career?
Let's say all of it, because it seems like they're going to be a bit of the same.
Yeah. So making the Navy super slim. So I'd like to take, an engineering, and I think RCs definitely help with that. When I first started RCs, I thought that, I thought flaps were ailerons. So, and ailerons were
Same.
elevators. So, I think it's definitely, taught me a lot about that. And I think it's definitely helped with engineering, like actually, like, making a hands-on model.
Sure.
Yeah.
Are you does your school have a STEM program or have an emphasis on STEM type curriculum?
Mm, not really. I mean,
Science,
I go to,
technology,
no,
not really.
no, not really.
Interesting. Does your club make an effort to sort of bring not just the hobby, but bring out those components of the hobby to say this is an engineering type skill or this is a math type skill when we're calculating CG?
Yeah.
Are you into that level of sort of connecting those two concepts together?
Yeah. As the like my instructor Alan says, he says like he takes his grandchildren out, and that's science for them. So yeah, because it is science. Because like I remember when I first got my F-16, just stood there about 20 minutes trying to get the CG right. Making sure the
Mm.
weight was equal on both sides. So I think that's definitely science.
Yeah,
Because there's so many
absolutely.
variables that could happen.
Right. And there's a lot of technology as well. Papa Boozer in comments is asking, what do you think of AS3X and other sort of gyro stabilized type technologies? Are you into those yet? Are you flying straight?
I've never used safe. When I first started, I never used safe. I think it's harder to fly. Like even with jets, I don't use safe. With AS3X, I mean, some of my planes have them, some of them don't. So if they have them, then cool. If they don't, then cool.
Yeah. You can fly either way. I'm sort of the
Yeah,
same. There are
yeah,
some aircraft I when it's too windy, I'll toggle it on to sort of help out to stick the landing. But other than that, it seems like you're pretty good to go. What about that 70 millimeter Freewing F-16 I see behind you? How are
yeah.
you
That's
enjoying
a
that?
nice one. So that one, actually buddy boxed it the first time. John, he buddy boxed it with me. Super nice guy. I've done flights since I'm solo, so I did one buddy box, and I've done about 4 or 5, solos. But it's hard. It's a hit and miss with this airplane. Like when you can actually fly it, because I don't fly in heavy wind. And I don't know, Travis Air Force Base. It was in the 1940s. It was picked specifically as a training base because it had high winds. So we can only go out there in the morning, and it gets windy fast. Like you'll get up to like 20-mile-per-hour wind. So I mean, this one it comes in so fast. Like we have a tree line, so you have to go over the trees, and then you have to like kind of dive it down a little bit, or you have to go in between the trees. But I don't do that.
Yeah,
I'm
you
not gonna
need to
risk
go
that
fly with
fun.
Aros.
Yeah,
That's what he's doing. That's what he's doing.
Yeah. I mean, I don't have the high performance version, so I got that on purpose because I did not want a fast airplane because it's my first jet, So
Yeah. That's smart. It's better to have your first airplane live longer. Something you can grow into. Air Guardian had asked above. You've talked about the Zero and obviously Avenger. Are there other aircraft that you really love?
B-24. I mean, I know there's already a model of that, but the B-24, that's probably one of my favorite planes from World War II. I mean, I think it did such a good job during the war. Getting the guys home. So yeah.
Sure. Yeah, she's a robust bird. You mentioned that your great grandfather was a navigator in the Korean War, and I
Yeah.
believe you said the Vietnam War. What aircraft was he in?
I think I get confused by these, but I think it's the C-54.
Okay.
Yeah, he was. They would go to Korea. I think it was either Japan. So they go from Japan to Korea, pick up a bunch of guys, got wounded or whatever. Then they'd go back.
Oh,
So yeah.
that's the Skymaster. For those of you not familiar, it's basically derived from the Skytrain.
Yeah.
You see from the C-47. People would know it more from the C-47. Basically a 4-engine C-47. So he did mercy flights and troop transport for the Korean War. That's amazing.
Yeah. It was cool.
Do you think that a historical component is sort of essential to appreciating RC, or do you think it helps, but that anyone could fall in love with RC?
I think it helps. I think anyone can fly or can fall in love with RCs. I mean, I did. I didn't know that when I first started. I didn't know they made warbirds. I just saw fast high wings, and that's what drew me in. But now that I'm a little more of an experienced pilot, I do warbirds. Alex, you put the warbird picture up with us. At our club, we do warbird flights where you have 12, 13 planes up at the same time. Then we just do our little circuit. Then sometimes if it's just 2 or 3 of us, one time we dogfight. So that's fun.
I do like the dogfighting. Are you interested in other sort of taking your technology understanding and your engineering skill set and moving into other types of RC? Like, are you going to get a tug to pull around your airplanes? Or are you getting into cars or other types of things that have a historical element, like an LCM-3 Lander from Bancroft or any of those types of vehicles?
No, not really. I mean, my sister does cars, but I've always just been hooked on aviation. So, I mean, cars don't really interest me at this point in my life. So, I'm going to stick with RC airplanes.
Are you teaching your sister, sort of sharing information that you learn and how to fix things and whatnot?
Yeah, she actually has a pretty basic car, so it doesn't need to be fixed or anything. But I'll show her on the simulator. Sometimes I'll help her. The other night we went on. I trained her a little bit with safe on and stuff. So yeah, I mean, one day she'll probably be out there. So
yeah, you want to keep that cycle going. As others learned and taught you, you're teaching others. So that's key, Diego. So
yeah.
Again, I want to thank you for taking the time to jump onto the show with us, guys. For those of you listening, here we have a young man who like he is already teaching his sister to enjoy RC. I think if anything Diego has taught me is that it is to be reminded that enjoying RC, whether you're in the air or on the water or on the ground, it is always more fun with others. And so his imperative to not just be taught and be humble and learn, but also to internalize these lessons and find out what he loves the most, and then now already begin to share it with others. That's a journey, and that's sort of that's a lifestyle almost. And Diego has helped to remind me that that's really important to me, and I know it's important to all of us out there listening. So Diego, I want to thank you for your for being here. I want to thank you for the insight you've given us as a young man such as yourself, and perhaps if the rest of us could jump out to our clubs wherever we're going this weekend and just say, hey, I heard from Pilot Diego his idea about getting more field trips. Is there a school around here that we could bring children in to see what we do here? Let's take his insight and move it down the runway, guys. I think we and the hobby in general worldwide will benefit.
One thing
Diego,
before,
any final words you'd like to share with us?
yeah, I'd just like to do a shout out to my club, the Lagoon Valley Electric Flyers. Thank you guys so much. John, Pat, Desmond, Mike, Alan, Glenn Johnson, Val, Cal, Ruben. Sorry if I forgot anyone, Dave, all the guys out there. Thank you guys so much for, welcoming me and helping me out. I would not be able to fly without you guys' help, so thank you.
Yes, to each of you in that long list, my personal thank you as well. We hope you guys can listen in on this and future shows. For those of you who enjoyed Diego and enjoyed hearing from Aros as well, please like, share, and subscribe. Let us know on HobbySquawk if this is the type of content you'd like us to incorporate in future shows. A little bit of everything. We're looking at CAD designs of our aircraft, talking with team members, showing our community and what each of you are sharing with us, and then bringing in special guests from time to time, whether it be people in studio as we've had in the past, or in this Zoom world of bringing people together from around the world so that we can share in this special hour of RC. Please let us know and stay tuned for the upcoming show. James will be back in studio next Friday. We'll be looking at a few special products and a few upcoming announcements that you will definitely want to see. This is me and Diego saying thank you. RC everything. Have a great weekend.
Thank you, Alpha.